Hello, my name is Huang Wen, and this is the final for UCOR 2100 Ignatian Spirituality. Um, this is a reflection of my own discernment in the context of racism. Some of the sources I'll be using are myself, in-class lectures, um, the Racism as a Sickness article, the Lonsdale chapters, specifically chapter 4, and the Selma movie. I will be addressing questions that were given out in this assignment. Um, the first question I would like to address is how does or could discernment apply to your life, values-based decision making, and listening? Um, I feel like this best fits with the chapter 4 of the Lonsdale book because that chapter goes through a lot of just like what discernment is. Like, they talk a lot about consolation and desolation, and a quote they have on page 100 is how, in this case, consolation will mean pleasant feelings of joy, peace, delight in God, and in the following of Jesus, and desolation will mean unpleasant feelings, confusion, sadness, moods of depression, distaste for the things involved in the following of Jesus. While I am not specifically religious or related in this situation, I feel like consolation and desolation still applies to my life because one of my experiences of consolation would just be like music because of all the good that music brings in my life. Like, I spent all of high school listening to music, playing music, singing music. I was in choir, I played instruments. A lot of my life revolved around music. And another example would be of desolation. It would be like when you're feeling alone when you're physically not. It doesn't really make sense, but I feel like it's a feeling that everyone gets because that's just how people work, I feel like. You don't feel it for any certain reason or like because you follow God or something. You feel it because it just happens. Another reason this article or this chapter well represents this question is because of the importance of awareness and reflection. There's another quote also on page 100 that says, "The process of discernment of spirits, therefore, is one of looking at and sifting our present and past experiences, taking note especially of the events, people, and situations that are associated with or evoke the moods and feelings of consolation and desolation." I feel like every person, no matter who, will always have their own personal experiences because, well, everyone's a person and everyone's gonna have their own past actions that people are gonna either regret or look back on. I feel like that's just a human thing that people are bound to do because not it's not by choice, it's by like just occurrence that sometimes it's nostalgia, sometimes it's regretting a decision you make. There doesn't have to be a reason. People just reflect, and I feel like that's a good thing. Another way this chapter applies to life is because of how discernment isn't just like coming to yourself to make a big decision. Like, I know for a lot of people at Seattle U, they made the choice to go to Seattle U because it is a Jesuit school and it matches with their values. And going to college is a big choice, and discernment is kind of like the reflection of just basically anything, I would say. But it doesn't have to be just for big life choices. I know people from high school and college that use their religious beliefs and their own ways of discernment to make everyday choices in what they do in their life. Just going day by day, classes, homework, whatever, sports, clubs. Everyone makes their own choices, and some people use discernment to make that an application in everyday life. And I feel like the last way this chapter applies to discernment is the practical use of just discernment itself. People go to this because it provides guidance when people are having different experiences and they need navigation. But I feel like this applies to me personally because even though I'm not religious, I still like take time to myself to listen to people, whether that's like in conversation about anything, in a debate or argument about anything. I just feel like the importance of listening to others and bringing that back to yourself, and I don't know how to say it, but just like being aware of just each person having their own beliefs and their own discernment strategies, or whether or not they believe it or whatever about discernment. Each person has their own opinion, and I feel like that's just something that where listening comes in for me personally. In the context of racism, I looked at the Racism is a Sickness article a lot. They also talk about how this applies in your life a lot, and I feel like for me, I don't think racism has been as much of an issue as it has been for other people. I think that I was lucky to have an environment that was a little bit more supportive, and racism was more of an issue for like a worldwide context where it was happening, and though not everyone experiences it, it's still an event. The article talks about how Ignatian spirituality offers a way to foster self-awareness, and I feel like even though racism wasn't a big part of my life, I feel like self-awareness was important because it could be happening around me, and I had to be able to recognize that. So even though I've only like used or heard of Ignatian spirituality and discernment only this quarter, I feel like it's good to be self-aware and kind of make yourself know about racism. It could be like in your family, in friends, at school, workplace, wherever. I feel like just being aware of it, like, is the first step to your own choices, I think, in the context of racism, of course. The article also talks about community and solidarity, and they say how for racism that healing requires personal and communal effort, I feel like not only does this apply for racism, but this applies for like anything, because when you heal, it's not just about kind of working on yourself. Sometimes you need the help of others, and that's important because, well, not everyone can do everything by themselves. Everyone needs help sometimes. And whether it's just me dealing with racism, or like a group or a community or whoever, whether I'm receiving or seeing it or whatever, I feel like it's not just me that has to deal with it. Yeah, I can work on it just myself, but it's important to work on it as a community and as a collective effort, because I feel like that is more tying together between the people and like a communal effort. This article also talks about action and transformation. It addresses how discernment, like for healing in racism, it requires praying and action, because of like, not only are you praying to get rid of racism, I think, or whatever in this context, but you do have to take action as well. And that's important, because if you're doing something, you don't just think about it, you act it out too. And whenever you're, for example, working on a sport, you're not just practicing, you have to think about what you're doing. And I feel like that's like a good connection. There was a quote in the article. It says that we are called to be agents of reconciliation, working to heal the divisions in our society and to transform the structures and that I don't know that word, injustice. I think that quote well defines action and transformation, because not only are we like healing, but we're also like, as the quote says, transforming and structuring, so that like that's the action that you take when working on racism, I guess, but that it takes both. The next question from this assignment that I wanted to address was, when have you experienced values in conflict with one another? For example, good versus good. I feel like this comes up a lot for me whenever I decide to tell someone the truth or to lie to them. Like, they're both good in their own ways. Sometimes you have to lie to make someone feel better, or sometimes you have to lie to kind of like lead them towards what you think is better. And sometimes telling the truth is better, because being upfront about something is, I would say, most of the time better than just like pushing it off to the side, which would be the lying. I feel like this relates to the Selma movie, because during the second march, when everyone comes out to Selma and Dr. King leads everyone through the march, and everyone's doing fine, the officers are not going to like retaliate. It's like perfectly set up. Dr. King kneels and he decides to turn everyone around and head back into Selma. And I feel like Dr. King had two choices there. I feel like he had decided to protect the people from risk and potential like danger by turning everyone around. And I feel like that was the choice he made because of discernment and his like religious beliefs and just like his like physical thoughts as well. But the other choice he could have made is to risk the safety and continue moving forward for like his movement. Both would have spread a message. Both, I would say, both did spread a message. If he did decide to keep moving forward, I think that would have spread a big message. He chose to risk the safety by bringing everyone back into Selma and like potentially not having another march, but he like potentially like saved a ton of people from like risks and like danger that would be up ahead when they continue the march. Like I would say both those choices are good. In one side he's like protecting the people from like actual danger, and on the other side he's like pushing the movement forward and like continuing the march, even though in the movie he decided to turn people around and protect the people. And I feel like this is a good example for the question because it really depends on the context, I would say, and the person. If there's two good versus good like conflicts, it's depends on the person on what choice they make. And for me personally, I would say it depends on the situation, because this is going to be like a really extreme example, but it could also be like if a person asks which shirt looks better, you're gonna tell the truth and say which shirt you like more. You're not gonna lie to the person because that's what you think they would like more. That's what I would do. I would tell them which shirt I like more because I think it would fit that person more. But other people may not do that. Some people would say they would tell them to choose the shirt they like more. And in other situations, for example, like your classic middle school relationship where you're admitting your feelings to someone, I don't know, and that's just off the top of my head. But middle schoolers, I would not say make the best choices, so some people would lie and say, oh my god, yes, or oh my god, no. But you could also admit the truth and say just outright what you feel about the person and whatever goes on from there. But I feel like each person has their own way of approaching these conflicts between a good like result and a bad result. But sometimes it's not just the result, it's about like the conflict itself. So the context of the good versus good or the bad versus bad situation matters a lot about the person and the context. And finally, I would say the last question I'd like to address would be the consider and choose a current or future choice you might need to imagine you need to make. I would say that I've made multiple choices in my life, and I feel like the class lectures on Ignatian discernment was a great example to reference back on. We talked a lot about like how discernment's like love, and in other words like the heart thing where the heart with the lines, I don't remember what that was, but I feel like that was important because we talked about consolation and desolation there too. And I feel like that applies here as well because like the choices you make depend on your emotions and like just your mentality or like your mental state or just like a lot of different factors. Like a current choice I made at the start of this quarter was I decided to start journaling, and I feel like that's a good choice I made because I just feel like it's a way to express myself in another way that's a little more physical, I would say. I, and also another way during the class, we did the I am poems in class during the one day when no one showed up because of the snow day. I feel like the I am poems was a great thing to do because it like really grounded my thoughts on a lot of different things and how they related to different stuff and like where my thoughts would go depending on the topic. So I feel like those two choices were like really important to me because like they've I'd say they've both made an impact on who I currently am. And even those in-class discussions about discernment really helped because like it's not just like belief, but it's also like emotion, physically and like mentally. So I feel like that helped a lot with the choices I made. I did have one more source that I did not mention. It was the song that's playing in the background of this video. It's by Coldplay. It's called All My Love. I feel like this was a good last source for me because the song like really has a deeper connection for me because of like all the emotion that goes into it, whether that's like romantic for my partner or like platonic for like friends or like family or just like everything that goes on in life. Like I love volleyball, so I feel like all my love goes out to everything I love, and I really have a special connection to that song with my partner, and I feel like that I just love that song a lot. This concludes my video. As a summary, I talked about how the Lonsdale chapters and the Racism is a Sickness article relate to how discernment applies in my life in values-based decision-making, and how consolation, desolation, awareness and reflection, like daily life and practical use all apply, and how spirituality is a way to foster awareness, how community and solidarity require communal efforts and not just personal, and how it's not all just a mental fight but also a physical. I used the Selma movie to address the question of like conflict with one another in good versus good or bad versus bad when there's conflict between values. And I used the and I decided that it was between just the context of the situation along with the personal beliefs and just a lot of different factors. And I also talked about what future choices I would make, current or future, and how I did journaling, how I reflected on class a lot, and how the I am poems helped me with that too. Thank you for watching this video.